Welcome to Beautiful Thrift Homemaking. I'm Linda. We're reading a vintage cookbook from 1917 that also has a story in it. So each time we get together, we read two or so of the chapters. This is what it's called, A Thousand Ways to Please a Husband, and it has Bettina's best recipes in it. So our main character is called Bettina, and she's a newlywed. We're just starting the month of December with the second chapter in our reading today. And so we're getting caught up with the months, and we want to follow along the months in the book with the months that I'm recording. So that's what I'm aiming for. So today we're doing chapters 92 and 93. Chapter 92, Planning the Christmas Cards. "And what is in this dish?" Bettina asked Bob as he lifted the hot cover. "Candied sweet potatoes, dear, and I'm almost sure that you'll like them. I made them in the fireless cooker, and they're really more candy than potatoes." "They'll suit me then," said Bob. "The sweeter the better. My mother used to cook up candied sweet potatoes with a lot of brown sugar syrup. Say, but they tasted good about this time of year when I would come in from skating. Well, I believe these are exactly like hers." "Only hers weren't made in a fireless cooker," said Bettina. "Now, Bob, as soon as you have allayed your hunger a little, we must put our heads together long enough to get an idea for our Christmas cards. If we have something made, it may take several weeks, and you know it is no small task to address several hundred of them. As soon as we have ordered them, we'd better make out our Christmas list. But first, what shall the cards be? Think, Bob." "Goodness gracious sakes alive, but thinking is hot work. Well, how's this? Suppose we don't have cards engraved. They're expensive, and besides, 'twould take too long. We'll find some plain white correspondence cards, or perhaps white cards with a red edge, and envelopes to go with them, and in the corner of the card we'll stick a tiny round snapshot of the house. Then we'll write this verse very neatly and sign it, Bettina and Bob. Perhaps you can improve on this, however. We enclose our Christmas greetings and the hope that we may know many happy future meetings in this little bungalow." "Bob, that's the very thing," cried Bettina. For dinner that night they had beef steak, fireless sweet potatoes, creamed carrots, pineapple charlotte with custard sauce. And in this chapter we have Bettina's recipes for the fireless sweet potatoes, candied, the pineapple charlotte, and the custard sauce. And we'll go back and discuss those after I read the next chapter. But the next chapter begins the month of December in the book. And as you may remember, each chapter has a poem at the beginning. So the December poem says, "Roasting turkeys, rich mince pies, cakes of every shape and size. Santa, though they're fond of you, Christmas needs us housewives too." And here is the picture that we have, the illustration for the December month of readings. So you'll notice the long dress, 1917. You'll notice the apron over the dress. This time it's not a full coverage apron. She's got a platter there that she's carrying, and she has her baking cap on as well. All right. Now our chapter 93 has a little picture with it this time too, of four people sitting at the dining table together. And I will show that. This is called Harry and Alice Return. So I'm thinking this is Bob and Bettina and Harry and Alice. And so I'm going to show you like this. So you'll notice there's a table decoration, some flowers in the center of the table, and a couple of little lamps. There's a tablecloth. The two women have their hair pulled up and they have long sleeve dresses on. And the men are wearing suits and ties, looking very serious there. Harry and Alice are newlyweds. They're just coming back from their honeymoon, I suppose. So chapter 93, Harry and Alice return. Who can that be? Said Bettina, laying down her napkin. Someone is at the door, Bob, I think. I wonder why he doesn't ring. Hello, said Bob, throwing open the door. Why, Bettina, it's Alice and Harry. When did you get home? We're on our way home now, said Harry, as he set down the suitcases he was holding. Say, these are heavy. We thought we'd stop in for a minute to rest. Welcome home, said Bettina. Just think, we don't even know yet where you went for your wedding trip, though we suspected California. California it was, said Alice, along with all the other recent brides and grooms. We escaped any particular notice. There were so many of us. It was rather a relief, though. Have you had your dinner? Asked Bettina, a little embarrassed at the thought of the dinner for two that she and Bob were just finishing. There was certainly not enough left for another person, not to suggest two. But then, of course, there was her ample emergency shelf. We had our dinner on the diner, said Harry, or we shouldn't have dared to stop at this hour. Do come on out to the kitchen, said Bettina. Bob is about to make some delicious sour cream candy, aren't you, Bob? Surely that is a splendid way to entertain a newly returned bride and groom. Fine, said Harry, though we can't stay long. We must hie to our own apartment and get rid of the dust of travel. We're looking forward to the time when we can return some of your hospitality. I shall learn to make even better candy than Bob's. For dinner that night, Bettina had pork chops with sweet potatoes, applesauce, bread, butter, perfection salad, and salad dressing. And in this chapter, we have Bettina's recipes for the pork chops with sweet potatoes and the perfection salad. And then we also have Bob's special recipe, don't we, for this sour cream candy. So join me in just a second and we'll discuss these recipes and see what they're all about. Okay, we're going to discuss these two chapters and the recipes we'll take a look at also. Chapter 92, planning the Christmas cards. The recipes are for the pork chops with sweet potatoes, the perfection salad, and the sour cream candy. So pork chops with sweet potatoes is for 2 portions. You take 2 sweet potatoes and a teaspoon of salt, 1/4 teaspoon paprika, 2 chops, which would be of course pork chops, and 1/3 cup of boiling water. Pare the sweet potatoes, add salt, and place in the bottom of a small roasting pan. Wipe pork chops and place on top of the potatoes. Place the pan uncovered on the top shelf of a hot oven in order to brown the chops. Brown on one side and then turn gently and brown on the other. Sprinkle with a little salt and paprika and add 1/3 cup of boiling water. Cover and bake 1 hour or until the potatoes are done. Baste frequently. All right, sounds like a nice dinner meal. Then the perfection salad is for 3 portions. It consists of 1 tablespoon of granulated gelatin, 4 tablespoons of cold water, 4 tablespoons vinegar, 1 tablespoon of lemon juice, 1 cup boiling water, 4 tablespoons sugar, 1/2 teaspoon salt, 2/3 a cup diced celery, 1/2 cup shredded cabbage, 1 green pepper chopped, and 2 tablespoons of pimento cut fine. Add the cold water to the gelatin and let it stand for 5 minutes. Add the boiling water. When thoroughly dissolved, add the vinegar, salt, lemon juice, and sugar. Mix well. Add the celery, cabbage, green pepper, and pimento when the jelly begins to set. Pour into a mold which has been dipped in cold water. Allow to set in a very cold place for 1 hour. Serve with salad dressing. All right, so That has gone out of fashion now in the US. We don't usually have vegetable salads with gelatin around them, but that might be something that you're interested in trying. It is, I think, what we could call a historic recipe in that we are not eating something like that commonly anymore. All right. We do like our Jello, our gelatin made into a dessert with fruits and such still. As I talked about in the past, Jello brand has been around even from before the time of this cookbook, right at the turn of the century, if I remember right. Okay, let's go look at the sour cream candy. 6 portions, 2 cups brown sugar, 1/2 cup sour cream, or a 1/2 cup of sour milk plus 1 tablespoon of butter, 1 teaspoon vanilla, and 1/4 teaspoon of cream of tartar. And remember, that's a white powder that you buy in the spice section, cream of tartar. Mix the sugar, cream of tartar, and the sour cream or milk. Cook until a soft ball is formed when dropped in cold water. Remove from the fire and allow to cool. Beat until creamy and place in a well-buttered pan. And that's all it says. So cook until a soft ball is formed when dropped in cold water. That means that you take a little tiny sample of the mixture that's been boiling, and you will drop it into a little glass of cold water, just a little bit of it, and you'll put it in there. And if it sticks together and forms a soft ball, then you know that it's ready. So it still needs to be soft and pliable. All right. So it probably takes a lot of beating after that. You're going to beat it until it's creamy, and then you put it in the buttered pan. And I suppose at that point, then you can cut it up into the 6 portions or 6 pieces of candy. So that this chapter was about, oh, you know what I did? I just gave you the recipes from chapter 93, Harry and Alice return. They had come back from their honeymoon. They are walking by and they have their honeymoon luggage with them, and they're tired, and so they stop into Bob and Bettina's home. It's just dinner time, and Bob and Bettina are just finishing their dinner. They're about to have their dessert, and they invite them in, of course, and sit down, and that's when Bob decides to make the sour cream candy from that recipe. So I am sorry, but I did get those mixed up. I didn't turn back another page. So the recipes that go with the first chapter that we read, Planning the Christmas Cards, chapter 92, are the fireless sweet potatoes candied, the pineapple charlotte, and the custard sauce. So let's go over those, and then we'll talk about the chapters. Bettina's recipes have a lot of paprika in them. Not a lot of paprika in each recipe, but she uses paprika commonly. And here we have the two days in a row, we have a sweet potato recipe. So this one is the fireless sweet potatoes candied for 6 portions. 6 large sweet potatoes, 1 cup brown sugar, 1/4 cup water, 1 teaspoon salt, 1/4 teaspoon pepper, 1 tablespoon butter. Wash and peel the sweet potatoes, slice them lengthwise in 1/2 inch slices. Make a syrup by boiling for 5 minutes the brown sugar and water. Add the butter. Arrange the potatoes in a fireless cooker utensil. Sprinkle with salt and pepper, and pour the syrup over them. Place the heated discs under and over the pan of potatoes and cook in the fireless an hour and a half. Well, if you're just joining me and missed the chapters where we talked about the fireless cooker, then you could go back to those if you wanted to know about it. I suppose I could possibly flip back in my notes and figure out what week it was that we covered that. So we talked about it in some detail. Transfer the food to the fireless. Chapter 7, the fireless cooker is also called a hay box. It's an insulated, warm environment, kind of like a an ice chest, you know, something that's insulated. And you have these discs that you preheat and you put them over and under the food or around the food in it. And then basically it maintains a very low but warm temperature to continue cooking the food. So you'll notice that in this recipe, we already had the syrup. The sugar syrup was boiled. And so that's going to be very, very hot. And we're going to pour that over those sliced sweet potatoes. So that's why it's already going to be warm, very warm, and start that cooking process. All right. Now we have the pineapple charlotte. Oh, and by the way, the fireless cooker could be considered like our crock pot today. It was used in the same way, kind of getting a head start, starting something cooking earlier in the day that would be ready then by dinner. And we have the instant pot now and the crock pots. So back in this day, 1917, it would have been the fireless cooker for those who had one. Now to dessert, pineapple charlotte. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about why this dessert is called a charlotte. Pineapple charlotte is for 4 portions. The ingredients are 2 tablespoons cornstarch, 4 tablespoons cold water, 1/4 teaspoon salt, 1/4 a cup of sugar, 1 cup of boiling water, 2 egg whites, 1 teaspoon vanilla, 1/2 teaspoon of lemon extract, 2 slices of pineapple cut in slices lengthwise. Mix the cornstarch, salt, and sugar. Gradually add the cold water, stirring well, and then add the hot water. Cook about 5 minutes, stirring constantly. So you're making a thickening, a sweet thickening agent there. Then add the vanilla and the egg whites stiffly beaten. This is often a technique used in her recipes, is to take some egg whites and beat them stiffly and then folding them in to make a light dessert. Pour into a moistened mold in which the slices of pineapple have been arranged. All right, so M-O-U-L-D, mold. These kind of molds are pans that are shaped, and so she's going to bake this in a shaped pan. Set in a cool place for 2 hours and serve with custard sauce. So she's not baking it. This one is not baked. However, she does use a lot of molds for baked goods. Okay, so in this case, it's like Jello molds, right? Something that you would chill. So she's going to have the pineapple on the bottom and then pour this thickened, sweetened sauce over it. Then she's going to chill it for 2 hours, and she's going to serve it with custard sauce on top. So I'm going to tell you a little bit that I read about a charlotte. I wondered why a dessert would be named after a woman, and it's named after Queen Charlotte. She was the wife of King George III of England, and he was a king in the 18th century. That would be the 1700s. The dessert is believed to have been created in her honor by a French chef, and it is typically a dessert created in a molded form, just like we see here. It usually has a fruit puree or custard and is lined with ladyfingers or sponge cake. It became popular in both French and English cuisine and is often associated with elegance and sophistication, reflecting the royal connections. And the name Charlotte has since been used for various preparations and flavors, but it retains that historical royal link, and that is from ChatGPT. Okay, thank you, AI, for that history lesson on Charlotte. Okay, so the custard sauce, so this is interesting that historically it was perhaps a custard base, and this time she's putting the custard on top. The custard sauce, 4 portions, 1½ cups milk, 2 egg yolks, 1/4 a cup of sugar, 1/2 teaspoon vanilla, 1/8 a teaspoon salt, 1 tablespoon flour, 1/4 a teaspoon of lemon extract. Mix well the sugar, salt, and flour. Gradually add the beaten egg yolks and the milk. Cook in a double boiler until the mixture coats a silver spoon yellow. Add the vanilla and lemon extract. Beat 1 minute. Serve very cold. So I was just noticing that the first recipe, the Charlotte, has 2 egg whites in it, and the custard sauce has 2 egg yolks in it. So I love that. There's no waste there. Sometimes we use a recipe that calls for one or the other, and we end up with a little bowl of the cast off egg parts in the refrigerator and have to remember to add them to our scrambled eggs or something on another day. But in this case, both of those eggs are used completely, one for the main part of the dessert and the other for the sauce, so that's really nice. What else do I notice is that both the recipes have vanilla and lemon extract in them. And I've noted that before in some of her recipes, that those 2 liquid flavorings are in her desserts at times together. All right. So what do you think of that? A pineapple Charlotte. Now, I wanted to do one more thing while I'm here on planning the Christmas cards. I hope that you find this interesting. We're going to talk about Christmas cards. Okay, so what we're going to talk about now is Christmas cards. In chapter 92, planning the Christmas cards, we see that Bettina wants to come up with a Christmas card that she and Bob can send out to their friends and family. And she asked Bob to come up with an idea. And, you know, I kind of sometimes picture that he works in an advertising agency because he loves to come up with little jingles, but he does come up with something. And so he decides right away that he's going to have them make their own cards, not get some engraved. And that they're going to be white with a red edge. And they're going to include a little picture of their home in the corner, a tiny round snapshot of the house, so a round one. And then they're going to have the verse written by hand. And it's, "We enclose our Christmas greetings and the hope that we may know many happy future meetings in this little bungalow." And so that's the little rhyme that he came up with for their Christmas card. And so what I wanted to talk to you about is Christmas cards, just for fun, because I know that I have a vintage Christmas card. I don't know from what year, but this is the card, and it has a little rhyme on it also. "Best wishes at Christmas, together with a hope that the coming year will be a happy one." And it has some ladies looking like Southern belles and a gentleman coming down some snowy stairs. And you see it has little candles. The envelope that this came with is very, very old and tattered and torn even. And it looks so plain, doesn't it? But inside the flap, you see it has gold foil and another image that goes with the card. And that's not showing very clearly, I don't suppose. But what you're seeing is a circle with some carolers in it, holding a music book. And it looks like they maybe have muffs around their hands to keep them warm. Yeah, and there's just some snowflakes along here and some starry imagery and the gold foil. Okay. You see the edge is gold here. Well, Bob's card was going to have a red edge to it. So then I do have this card. It's not vintage, but it is foreign in that this is a Polish St. Nicholas type of image. And this card has a little furriness to the green. I got that years ago from some Polish friends of mine. And they also sent this. Now I've put a post-it note over the face just for privacy reasons. But they sent a photo card of their daughter and it says "Peace on Earth." So that's another way to do photos, to do cards with using photos. And you're already familiar with that most likely because so many people do send family photo Christmas cards that they get made. And then also people send cards that have different reprints of famous paintings of the baby Jesus and Mary, manger scenes, and so forth. These two are from one of my brothers who sends usually a card like this each year. I like the shape of this one, don't you? And it is a card. Now I do have some friends that, speaking of engraving and engraved cards, they have some old equipment and some to do letterpress. And so when you feel this, you can see that each letter has been stamped in to the card, and the card is very thick. And then they have a psalm down here at the bottom. I will praise you, O Lord, with my whole heart. I will tell of all your marvelous works, Psalm 9:1. And that's because they were announcing that they were expecting a child, their first child. We're a little extra holly and jolly this Christmas. So that was a really fun card to get. Another year they sent this one that's also made that way with the embossed, I believe. I can feel the texture of the dots on here. Yeah. And this one has the verse of John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish but have everlasting life. So that's the scripture right down there in this card. And then I have a niece who sometimes will make handmade cards, and she painted this one, which is really lovely. Thank you, Chelsea. And then I have gotten out a pile of cards that I've made over the years, and it has been a while since I made any cards. Some of these go way back, seriously way back. So when I was taking a printmaking class, I made this one, Happy Ho Holidays, and it has the luminarias. This is one of my favorite memories from my childhood Christmases. We lived near the Mexican border, and it was popular to put out these paper sacks with holes punched in them, and then they'd have sand in the bottom to weigh them down, that set them along the sidewalks and have a candle burning inside. And so this was the luminarias, is what they were called. And so I made that, and I cut them down into postcard sizes and sent those out that year. And then another one I made with linoleum block print was this one, and it was from Psalm 19:1. Psalm 19:1. And that would have been the heavens declare the glory of the Lord, probably. So it has that little star thing. This one has a real vintage 50s kind of look to it, doesn't it? I had a lot of fun making that, and you see I used the pinking shears or craft scissors on that. So I have some of those left over. Here's a really long, really old one that I made as a letterhead for, and then I'd handwrite a letter. And so this one was wishing you joy eternal. And I had the kind of the candy cane stripe to the J and the Y, and like an ornament for the O there. Let's see, this one was also a carved out of a lino cut block. Oh, come, let us adore him. And this one I made off of a photograph of a nativity play done at our church when we lived in Southern California. And my son was playing this part here, which was, I think it was Joseph. And so I cut that photo into a little house shape and then put it inside of a little heart and star that I had printed with the linoleum block printing. I just kind of try to do all kinds of different things year by year. This one I did with stamping. So I just used, I cut stamps out of rubber, simple shapes of a leaf, a star, and so forth, a dot, and this little square. And I just randomly printed the card with those. And I said, this silent night, while snow and leaves fall from under heaven's starlight, may you some moments rest and give glory to God in the highest. And look at, that was from 1994. Yep. So this one I made out of a postage stamp, which was one of the nativity scene stamps, and I just kind of made a star out of the stamps and a manger. And I wrote "Oh Holy Night" on that. And I quoted from one of the hymns of Christmas, the Christmas carols: with thrill of hope the weary world rejoices, for yonder breaks a new and glorious morn. And then I noticed that on this envelope, which I never mailed, I was practicing with a real ink pen with a red ink, and practicing making a like a peace dove to decorate the envelope flap on some Christmas card envelopes. This one was really simple, just playing with fonts. Joy, joy, joy. And I have a list of who I sent cards to that year on the back in 2010. Wow. Okay. This one I made in a very simple way. I don't remember exactly. I think it was cut paper and glue. And I wrote, "Our Messiah has come, rejoice." This one was like snowy windows. I don't know if yes, I did. Oh, I have a quote in here. This one was just snowy windows that I made with silver colored pen, and I used a fancy scissor down on the bottom here. And I have a quote from Emerson: "Announced by all the trumpets of the sky, arrives the snow, and driving o'er the fields seems nowhere to alight. The whited air hides hills and woods, the river and the heaven, and veils the farmhouse at the garden's end. The sled and traveler stopped, the courier's feet delayed, all friends shut out, the housemates set around the radiant fireplace, enclosed in a tumultuous privacy of storm." And I wrote, "We hope your home this holiday is filled with a cozy warmth and the love of friends and family. May you set aside some time to contemplate the mystery of Christmas, the astounding fact that the King of Kings humbled himself to serve us. Our challenge is to do likewise." So that was my Christmas card send out one year. And so that's a selection of some of the cards that I've made over the years and some of the things that I had said in them. I hope that inspires you maybe to think about sending some cards out this year, thinking about making some cards. There's nothing like homemade things, especially in this day and age of technology. The human touch is becoming more and more rare and valuable and valued. Take care, and I'll see you next episode.